Namaskar, welcome to Wide Angle. The geopolitical significance of a region is extremely important in the way the country's strategic relations play out. Now, a land area of Jammu and Kashmir, which is an integral part of India, is also occupied by Pakistan, about 35%, and China, about 20%. Now, while these may be historical wounds that date back to partition, they have created a sense of unease and slowed the development process of the state. The recent assembly elections threw up an unusual mandate, with the BJP winning almost all seats in the Jammu region and the PDP doing the same in the Kashmir region. The parties spent 2 months understanding the complexity of the mandate, and then they came out with a common minimum program called the Agenda of the Alliance. Yesterday, Mufti Mohammad Sayeed was sworn in as the Chief Minister of this historic alliance, with Nirmal Singh of the BJP sworn in as the Deputy Chief Minister. 24 ministers, 13 from the PDP and 11 from the BJP, also took oath in the presence of the Prime Minister, among others. Now, what are the strategic implications of this historic alliance? That's the question we'll be discussing in Wide Angle today. And joining us in the studio for this discussion are Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, Professor and Dean at the Jindal School of International Affairs. Let's start with you, Dr. Chaulia. When a region which is as strategically important as Jammu and Kashmir has a government which looks stable, at least in terms of arithmetic, and they worked out something that's called the Agenda for the Alliance, which looks like it's a strong common minimum program. What does this mean, stability mean, in a region which is strategically important?
Well, I think it means that we have a chance of settling this conflict during the lifetime of this coalition government, which I hope lasts the full 5 years. We have a chance of turning a new leaf in terms of ending decades of armed conflict. Okay. We have a chance of also assimilating Jammu and Kashmir fully into India's sovereign territory, so that we are secure at our borders. I think powerful combination like this, PDP and BJP, can actually send the message, because Prime Minister's party is one of the coalition partners. Right. And Mufti Saab has also mentioned that this is a paradigm shift. It will lead to reduction in regional tensions and so on. So we can be cautiously optimistic. Although Pakistan has been unhappy with the way the PDP joined with the BJP to form a coalition, but nonetheless, I think overall, if you see, there is an air of optimism, because it reflects the people's mandate. Sure. And two, having a strong government like this, which is backed up by New Delhi, means that we can make the right mix of concessions and draw the red lines in such a way that it could eventually bring relief to the entire region, to people of Jammu, to people of Kashmir Valley, and even sometimes the neglected parts of Ladakh. Okay. I think the whole state is ready, I think, sure, to reap a dividend of peace, hopefully, which will come about through decisive actions of the central government, which is right behind Mufti Saab.
Dr. Chaulia, the BJP is not doing that. I mean, it has rejected the stand taken by the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, both on his statement with regard to the separatists as well as, Pakistan in the role of the peaceful elections, as well as in the case of what has been said with regard to Afzal Guru.
I think the Prime Minister is very secure in the sense that he's got such a huge mandate in the last general elections. Mr. Modi is in a position right now to act more magnanimously than his party would want him to. I think right now he's in a kind of a driver's seat, and I think he wants to explore the potential for some kind of a solution which has been so elusive in the past. Right. And we've come tantalizingly close with the Pakistanis. So maybe I think he sees that there is an opening here, because
and we are reminiscing about the role that Prime Minister Vajpayee had played,
exactly,
and following down the same
and they
path.
have repeated the same slogans: Jamhuriyat, Insaniyat, Kashmiriyat.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think, and we have the common minimum program clearly says that on all the internal stakeholders.
Sure.
There will be a wider deliberation and consultation.
Sure.
So again, we are going back, as you know, it's a kind of like a swing, you know, the pendulum goes one way or the other from time to time when it comes to a Kashmir policy. So right now, I think we are in the kind of phase where I think we feel that with the decisive people's mandate, Mufti Sahib is talking about trans-Kashmir trade and people's movement, converting the LOC into something like the Wagah border. And I think ultimately, if we are able to secure that, it's another question whether the Pakistanis are game for it, because they are very upset with this coalition and they think that the PDP should have held out, and they were pressurizing PDP not to do this through their own means and channels. But at the end of the day, even they're willing to talk to Hurriyat now. We have sent the foreign secretary. So it's a kind of a new season, you know, and frankly, we can question.
We'll have to see what comes of it.
Yeah, but we have to do this because at the end of the day, geography is not, you know, within our control.
They say that they will support the steps to normalize relations with Pakistan taken by the central government.
No.
I mean, who is calling the shots?
No, moreover, this so-called ultimatum has, I mean, Mufti Sahib has clarified that it's not that they demanded it and Modi caved in. He says it was Modi's first response when he said that we must talk to the Pakistan. He said, I'm about to send my foreign secretary. So it doesn't mean that this is part of the, you know, negotiation and the bargaining. I think that Modi doesn't need Mufti Mohammad Sayeed to prod him. Modi is a national leader, and I think right now he's thinking about how can we settle this issue, and I think he's very ambitious in that sense. He wants big ends to these long-standing conflicts, and I think that is the spirit of his swearing-in ceremony. If you go back in time, he wants a settlement, you know, of course not at the expense of our national interests, but keeping national interests in view, keeping the Kashmiri Muslims' point of view, we can reach a settlement, and I think that's the message of this election.
So Dr. Chaulia, I mean, let's come back to the concept of, I mean, a strategic place, I mean, a place of strategic importance like Jammu and Kashmir now with a stable government, and we have a neighborhood policy in place, and which has international recognition because we are a major player in SAARC and we are a major player in the region. How does this all play out in terms of the other players in this strategic region, such as, let's say, Pakistan first, maybe you can talk about that, and China?
Well, you know, I think from the Pakistani point of view, they still want to try and control the politics of the Kashmir Valley, either via the Hurriyat conference. In fact, they have refused to, they have become, you know,
but they failed.
Antagonistic
In the
to
proxy
PDP.
war system has failed in the election.
That has failed, but they still got Hurriyat. In fact, they did not
because we have been able to protect our borders, and even the cross-border firing as well has failed to some extent.
In fact, the militancy that we are seeing now, low scale, like recently there was an encounter in Pulwama, all these are mostly Hizbul Mujahid, which are like local youth, you know, and not very many either. Because our borders are far more secure. The level of infiltration that's happened is at a historic low. So that's why I'm going to come back to the point that I think the Pakistanis have been living in a time warp. They are still thinking that, you know, people are going to, there's going to be a mass uprising, something like an intifada in Palestine against Indian rule and all that. But that's not happened. These elections have confounded their expectations with a high turnout. They have denounced the elections as a sham. They are saying that they still recognize Hurriyat. But the point is that Hurriyat itself is highly divided. We don't know which faction Pakistan is really backing. And at the end of the day, they cannot tell us who should be our interlocutors, right? So if you want to talk, we are willing to talk, but you don't tell us who we should be talking to. I think that's the kind of message we are sending through all this process. And remember, with the local youth, you know, that's the key thing. I think PDP has the ability to deliver better governance, relatively speaking, even from their previous stint before this turnover of elections. So, and I've noticed in the valley, people are very, very unhappy with the governance. So when Modi and Mufti Sahib talk about smart governance, I think we have to give them a chance, you know, because ultimately youth unemployment, infrastructure, public utilities, these are things that need to be fixed if Kashmir has to go forward, you know. And people have to have some confidence. And if Delhi is funding and supporting the state government to deliver these kind of socio-economic benefits, it's going to secure India's control over Kashmir forever.
And Ram Madhav, who helped in these negotiations, says that one of the strengths is that they have, this coalition has mature leadership. So, I mean, we do understand that we heard...
You know, when the floods happened recently in September, you saw complete chaos and breakdown of the state government's machinery, you know.
And you had travelled to Kashmir recently.
That should not happen. You know, that should not happen. And I'm sure PDP has relatively better ability to emote with ordinary people, unlike the more aristocratic Abdullahs. So with good governance in Jammu assured because of BJP and relatively relatively better performance this time in the valley, we can
Let's take up that point, Mr. Sayeed.
On China, I just want to add,
Sure.
the Chinese have been trying to muscle into the dispute in Afghanistan. They have been hosting a lot of Taliban delegations, and President Ashraf Ghani of Afghanistan hopes that the Chinese will somehow press upon the Pakistanis to let go of their proxy war that's going on in Afghanistan. So I think we should also discuss, Prime Minister is going to China later this year, and we should also discuss whether there is a way, in fact, where we can actually get the Chinese to also pressure the Pakistanis to play a more constructive role in Kashmir. And I think it is in the larger interest, as Sushant is saying, for the Chinese to see that Kashmir doesn't become a hotbed of Islamic extremism that exports hatred and terror all in the across the region.
So, Dr. Chaulia, I mean, we've been talking about Kashmir, which has been called paradise on earth. Now, I mean, we haven't seen the semblance of paradise on earth. Of course, I mean, scenic-wise, it's the most beautiful place. But in terms of its development, in terms of the health of the people, in terms of their aspirations, of their happiness, their quotient, a lot needs to be done. And this is a government that is promising that. And it has the mandate, and it probably has the ability to deliver as well. Would that be, the starting point for, let's say, stability of a different kind in that region, which will have positive neighborhood effect and help, let's say, POK and later on perhaps the whole of Jammu and Kashmir?
There is a bit of a paradox because historically we've seen that militancy is linked to upward aspirations and mobility and even economic development to some extent. The rise of militancy in the late 80s, early 90s is linked to actually improving living standards. So there's a bit of paradox here, but you have to look at certain sectors, and it's a more nuanced view.
Is that an aberration, or is that that's the general view?
It increases expectations, The more you deliver, the more people want, right? So to some extent that, and of course it was linked to the war in Afghanistan winding up at that time. But now I think is a different period. If there is peace in Afghanistan, we should not allow the blowback effect to reach Kashmir again. We need to keep it at low intensity at best, the insurgency. And now is the chance through governance, through good, developmental initiatives, we can try and assuage some of these alienations that Mufti Sahib keeps talking about.
So here's the thing.
Right. Okay, I think we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on Wide Angle.